Greetings. I want to show you my buttermilk fried chicken. This is a multi-day recipe. So today I'm just going to show you the marinade for the chicken and then the secret to doing it the most effectively. And then I will come back in 2 days when we're going to cook this dish and show you how to cook it up. This is a buttermilk recipe and the marinade consists of a lot of garlic. I've got about a 1/4 cup of garlic cloves here in front of me. I'm going to put in 2 heaping spoons of paprika. And now it's a large spoon, it's not a measured tablespoon or anything like that. There we go. And that's it. For seasoning is the garlic and the paprika. You don't want to put salt or anything else in here because that goes into the coating. And then I'm just going to put about 1.5 cups, 2 cups of buttermilk in here. There we go. I don't want it too full because it's going to overflow. And I'm just going to take my submersible blender. Now you don't need a submersible blender for this. You can use finely chopped garlic. You can use pre-minced garlic. You can use powdered garlic if you really, really want to. You just want that garlicky taste in this. All right, make sure the spoon was out of the cup there. And now I'm just going to put the blender in the cup. I'm just going to turn it on now and just mince that garlic to the point of paste. Okay, I'm going to lift my submersible blender up and push it. Try and get some of those cloves underneath it there. And this cup I'm using is the one that came with the submersible blender. So you'll notice that it's almost exactly the same diameter as the blender, but it's just a little wider. So you get a nice cyclone effect in there. All right, I think that chopped up our garlic and mixed the paprika into the buttermilk really nicely. Hi, so our chicken has now marinated for 2 days in the fridge. Here's one of the bags. In fact, you'll notice it's a little bloated. The buttermilk is distributed nicely. And we're just going to drain this chicken now so that it's not drippy and when we put it in the oil, it doesn't splash us. All right, so I've put a plastic colander in the sink here, and you want a small hole colander. You don't want something that has really big holes. And all I'm going to do is take our 2 bags of chicken here that we made the other night and just dump them right in. That buttermilk and paprika now are used up and it's just going to drain off. I'm going to leave these draining for about ½ an hour and we'll come back and do our next step. But you'll see how nicely seasoned with the paprika and garlic these chicken parts are. They're just gorgeous. So I'm just going to take my hands now and I'm just going to literally pick up these pieces and make sure that the buttermilk all drains off. Doesn't that look lovely? Just look at that. Okay, and you want to make sure you don't get any water on this. Hi, we've been draining the chicken now for about 30 to 40 minutes. In the meantime, we prepared our own home mix of seasoning for this. I'm just going to take the lid off here and show you. This is a 7-part mix. It is 2 parts salt, 2 parts pepper, 2 parts garlic powder, and 1 part cayenne pepper. And we just used an old jar. I don't even know what used to be in here. You just shake it up like mad to make sure it's all mixed and it's ready to go. And we just, like I said, we use an old shaker. So I also have some flour ready to go and then a pan to drain this on. So come back in 1 second here and we'll show you how this goes. Okay. So now I'm going to take a piece of chicken and I'm just going to shake it off really quickly because there's always a little bit of buttermilk left on it. And I'm going to take my seasoning and I'm literally just over the bowl shaking on the seasoning. And then I'm going to take it and put it in the flour. And I've just got a couple of cups of flour here. It's probably not going to be enough, but because this contaminates the flour, I prefer to use a little and then add more later. And I'm just literally rolling the piece over until I can't feel any moisture left on that piece of chicken. So I'm looking for wet spots with my hand and making sure they're coated with flour. And now I'm putting them on a rack that is sitting over a cookie sheet. And I'm going to note something to you here. One hand is holding the shaker and the other hand is handling the meat. And this is very important because this shaker tends to last us a couple of batches. And you don't want to contaminate it with raw chicken. It's not coming out. There we go. And I'm using a bare hand instead of a glove, which I've done before, because I want to feel that the seasoning is going on the chicken. And now I've shaked it on and taking the wet hand into the flour. So this does get really gooey after a while. And I take a break every once in a while and wash my hand off just to make sure I can still feel what's going on. Again, just rolling the piece of chicken in the flour with my wet hand. The dry hand literally only handles the shaker and that's it, and never touches the meat. All right, and then I put that piece of chicken on the rack to dry. I'm going to just show you one more and then we'll take it off camera. Get a nice wing here this time. Shaking on the seasoning. Sometimes I drop it, but that's okay. There we go, nicely well seasoned piece. And then in the flour. And you note that I'm putting the seasoning on and then the flour. That allows the seasoning to be next to the meat and be drawn in. And the reason we're putting this on the rack is when this flour hardens, as it dries, it forms a nice sealing crust and it makes your chicken extra juicy. All right, so I have now dredged all of these and I've now dried my hands and I'm just looking across the pan to look to see if any of the pieces feel a little too wet, and this one here does. So I'm just taking it and putting it back in the flour. And my flour in the bowl is pretty wet and gooey right now. So there we go. There, that piece is now dry to the touch. Feeling the rest of the pan here. Yep, that piece is, oh no, a little bit of wet on that piece. And you'll notice I roll them over just to check the undersides as well. And I ran out of space on my pan here, so they're pretty crowded. Okay, this piece needs the bottom side done. You literally want these to be very dry to the touch. And this piece needs a little more. Okay, now these have to soak and harden for a half hour to 45 minutes. So we'll be back and then we'll show you how to deep fry them. All right, so our chicken has now been drying for about 45 minutes because we had many other things to do. I am going to use a deep fryer today because I do not feel comfortable using the frying pan. When you do cook this on the frying pan, in a frying pan, if you feel comfortable using a frying pan on the stovetop, you take the thicker, heavier pieces and put them in the middle of the pan and arrange the smaller, lighter, thinner pieces around the edges. I am going to use just a standard home deep fryer for this. I'm not going to describe it because it's so basic and it's probably too old for you to buy anyways. But when you look for a deep fryer, what you're going to want is one that has a good outside of the oil rest position for the basket, a good sealable lid, and preferably one that has a filter for the smoke, a charcoal filter in the lid for the smoke. So now all I'm going to do is I've got my basket up out of the oil, and I'm going to take a larger piece and I'm going to put it in the basket. And this is why you want it out of the oil, is because you want to be able to drop the piece into the basket. I'm taking another large piece, and I think I can only do 2 pieces at a time. Yes, 2 pieces at a time will be sufficient. And now I'm just going to take the basket and drop it into the oil and put the lid back on. And you want to cook with the lid on because it keeps some of the heat in. It also keeps it from splashing all over your kitchen. All right, this takes about 3 to 5 minutes, and I just do this by sound. All right, so our chicken is about half done now. If I run my hand over top of the vents on the top of the lid here, I can feel some very moist steam coming out. So it's definitely not ready yet. Just gonna put my lid down here for a second. And I'm just going to take a chopstick and go into the oil and roll these pieces around in the oil. And I want you to listen to that. You can hear the bubbling and boiling of the liquid in these. So these are nowhere near done yet. We want to wait for that bubbling to change to a sizzle and more of a fry sound. All right, they probably need another 2 minutes. All right, so I'm now going to take the lid off here again, and I'm going to use my chopstick, and I'm going to just roll these over again. And I'm not getting any additional sizzle or hustle from it. So, give me a moment here. Now I'm just going to lift the basket up out of the oil and put it on the upper setting, if I can get it in there. Come on. There's a trick to this one. And I'm just actually going to hold it because I can't get it on that clip. And I'm shaking it a bit because I want the oil to drip off. And I want to just hold it here for about 30 seconds out of the oil, shaking them around. And I'm going to take these, and now they've been dripped a bit, put them onto this plate. And these are going to sit in the oven until the rest of the chicken has cooked. I will come back and show you the final product when everything else is done. All right, so here we have a plate of some chicken wings. These have been in the oven for about 25-30 minutes. And they've dried out nicely on the outside surface. I'm just going to take this one here, and I'm just going to break it apart and look at that inside juicy bit. I'm going to give it a taste. That is so good. Please click subscribe. Don't forget to like the video and let me know what you want me to cook next.